Hey guys, so today I have a small book haul for you, and all of the books I'm going to mention in this particular haul are classics. I went to a store in Auckland here in New Zealand called Real Groovy, and as you can probably tell by that name, they mostly specialise in records and music stuff, but they also often have a really good selection of books as well, and they sell the Penguin Little Black Classics and the Penguin Modern Classics, which are really small books that are very, very cheap, most of them worth $3 each, some of them that were like double the sort of usual size of a Little Black Classic were $6 each, I think. I will link to every one of these that I mention in the info bar down below, where you can get them on Book Depository, because they're honestly so cheap. It's really worth checking them out if there's any authors or any of these stories that you're interested in. So the first one is by Jane Austen, and it is The Beautiful Cassandra. So I'm just going to go through, by the way, all of the Little Black Classics first, and then I got some of the modern classics as well, which I hadn't seen before, so that was exciting. The Beautiful Cassandra, it says that it's early works written by Jane Austen for her family's entertainment, so I think these will be really funny. It says on the back that they're stories of drunks, poisoners and prison breaks. So yeah, I think this will be great. I had a flick through this when I got it, and she's labelled each of these short little stories as like a novel, which I thought was really funny. Next I have The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This one I picked up because someone in Classics Clique, which is my Classics Goodreads book club currently hosted by Marta, I'll link it down below if any of you guys want to join in with that. Someone mentioned this as like a classic that we should read, and at the time I looked it up because it sounded interesting. This one says it's semi-autobiographical, so kind of I think based on the author's life. It's about a woman who is imprisoned in the 1800s due to madness, which was a thing that happened quite often. Women would be deemed mad for whatever reason when perhaps they really weren't. So I'm very, very curious to read this one. You guys know the 1800s is a period that I really enjoy reading about, and I just think this is interesting that it's like semi-non-fictional. The next one that I have is The Meek One by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I have two Dostoevskys in this pile. I'll get to the other one in a minute. This one says that it was based on a St. Petersburg news report, and it's about a man who drives his wife to suicide, so it sounds really, really grim. I've read little bits and pieces of Dostoevsky in the past, mostly in random readings and things for uni. I really want to read Crime and Punishment, which is a really well-known novel by him. The next one I have, I am really excited for. It is Lord Arthur Saville's Crime by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde wrote The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is one of my all-time favourite classics. I love his writing, so I was really happy to find this one. It says it's set in London high society, and again, I like the time period that he works in, and very much looking forward to this one. The next one is my other Dostoevsky, and this is White Nights. There are two stories in this one. There is White Nights and Bobok, and it says two devastating Russian stories of solitude, unrequited love and depravity. So again, they sound quite grim, but I am really looking forward to reading them. The next one that I got was Stancliffe Hotel by Charlotte Bronte. This one I was really excited for. I've only read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, so would love to read more of her works. And this says that it's set in an imaginary kingdom, which is really interesting, so looking forward to seeing what that's like. Next, I'm going to show you the modern classics that I got. So they all look like this. They're really pretty teal colour, and they're about the same size as the Little Black Classics. And the first one is The Breakthrough by Daphne du Maurier. Daphne du Maurier is from around the 1930s, I think that's when she was writing, and she wrote Rebecca, which is a gothic novel that I really enjoyed. I read it sometime this year, I think, again for Classics Clique. This one says it's about a scientist's attempt to solve the mystery of life after death. And it again sounds kind of like gothic and suspenseful, so I'm really excited for this. Next is a very bizarre one, and I just couldn't resist this one based on the title and the synopsis on the back. It's by Franz Kafka, and it's called Investigations of a Dog. So I have had mixed experiences reading Kafka's writing. I love his short story called Metamorphosis. It's about a man who basically turns into a bug and his family just locks him away. It's really creepy. I've also read Kafka's diaries that were published after his death. That was interesting. But I read The Trial by Kafka, which is kind of like a satire based around the justice system and things like that, and I really didn't enjoy that one, so I'm not entirely sure that I'll love this one, but I kind of think I will. Let me tell you what it's about. So basically it's told from the point of view of a dog, which just instantly appeals to me. And it's kind of a philosophical work, so he's imagining how dogs would feel about the world and about existence and things like that. So I'm very curious for this one. I couldn't resist. I thought it sounded fantastic, so I'll definitely let you guys know what I think of this once I get into reading it. Next is one that I was really excited to find, kind of totally unexpected, and that is by Jorge Luis Borges. It's The Garden of Forking Paths, but there's I think 3 stories in here. We've got Death and the Compass, The Circular Ruins, The Book of Sand, and The Garden of Forking Paths. So 4 stories. I've read only 1 story by this author previously. I read it in high school when I was in year 12 or something. We read one of his short stories for English, and I can't actually remember what it was called, but I'll write it in the info bar down below so you guys can check it out, because that story was amazing. I loved it, and it was kind of one of the first short stories that I really like delved into and analysed. We did that in my class and it was just amazing. So I'm really excited to read more stories by him, because I've kind of had this author in the back of my mind since then and just haven't found anything else by them, so really excited for this one. I just wish it had that story in it as well. I still have my like paper photocopy version of that story from high school because I loved it that much. I kept it. The last one that I have is one by Vladimir Nabokov, and it is called Lance. Vladimir Nabokov wrote Lolita. That's probably his most well-known novel, which I can appreciate his writing and everything is good, but that is like not my favorite book given the subject matter. It's just hard to read. I also read Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov, and I initially hated it when I read it because it was so weird, but the more times I reread it I started to enjoy it and appreciate it. So I think with this one I'm confident that I'll like it. I like his writing. It's just sometimes the subject matter of his works that are interesting. But this says 3 dazzling stories of obsession, mania, and an extraterrestrial nightmare. So it will be interesting. So these are all of the little black classics and modern classics that I purchased recently. If you've read any of them, let me know. Tell me which one you want me to read first, and if you want any reviews of any of them in particular. Definitely go check them out in the info bar below, because like I said, they're so cheap. The whole lot of them cost me like 30 something dollars, New Zealand dollars, which is really, really good. Make sure, like I mentioned, you go join Classics Clique if you haven't done that already. You can friend me on Goodreads if you want to keep up with my thoughts on these as I read them, and I will see you guys with another video in a couple of days. Bye.